Do not close this video right now. There is a weight you have been carrying for years that almost no one around you can truly see. You hold the household together, solve other people's problems before your own, smile in family photos, and inside you carry a tiredness no medical exam can explain. If something brought you here today, I need you to give me a few minutes because what I'm about to tell you may change the way you understand every door that is closed in your life, every silence that hurt more than it should, every night you cried alone without exactly knowing why. That pain you carry in secret is not weakness, and if you have the patience to stay until the end, you will understand where it comes from and what to do with it from today on. I want to talk to you, who are past 35 and learned the hard way to swallow your tears before breakfast. You who carry the house, who handle the bills, who listen to everyone's burdens and have no one to unburden to. You who have lost count of how many times you said "I'm fine" with a smile, while slowly drowning inside. This has an explanation, and it is not weakness, not failure, not a lack of faith. I will show you calmly and truthfully what lies behind it, and why this pain often is the first sign of a calling you have not yet fully understood. There is a kind of exhaustion that no gym can cure and no vacation can fix. It is the exhaustion of someone who has carried others for too long. You wake up already thinking about the whole day's list, the work that cannot fail, the house that needs to run, the child who demands attention, the father or mother who can no longer walk alone, the bill that came due, the harsh words someone said to you yesterday and you swallowed to avoid a fight. You learn to smile on top of exhaustion because deep down you believe that if you stop, everything around you will collapse. And there is a specific loneliness that almost no one talks about openly. The loneliness of being surrounded by people and still feeling utterly alone. You are at the Sunday table, surrounded by the whole family, laughing at the same old jokes, and deep in your chest there is a void that no one there can fill. You tried to explain this to someone, and the answer was "you're exaggerating," or an awkward silence that taught you never to try explaining again. So you kept it inside. And keeping it inside like that for years tires you more than any physical labor. There are also the doors that close without any explanation. That job that seemed certain and evaporated overnight. That friendship that cooled for no apparent reason. That relationship that promised a fresh start and withered before it could truly bloom. You did everything right. You tried, you prayed, you waited, you were patient, and still the door slammed in your face. That leaves a question that echoes in the middle of the night when the house is silent and only you are awake. Why me? Why again? And there is the quietest tiredness of all, the tiredness of pretending everything is fine. You have perfected this mask over time. You know how to smile at the right moment. You know how to answer, "Everything is fine, thank God," even when inside you're falling apart. No one notices because you are too good at it. You became an expert at looking strong so that no one has to worry about you, because deep down, you also learned that no one has time to carry your weight. If you recognized yourself in any of these sentences, I need you to understand one thing before we continue. None of this is an accident, and it is not a punishment either, but to truly understand that, we need to go deeper. And the next part of this conversation may be uncomfortable, because it touches directly on a wound you may have carried your whole life without understanding. There is a lie that many people in your generation have learned to believe without realizing it. The lie that pain is a sign that God has turned away, or that you did something wrong, or that life was simply unfair to you, full stop. I need to tell you, with all the responsibility that this word demands, that this lie has already caused deep damage in the souls of people who deserved more clarity about their own suffering. There is a difference between punishment and refinement. No raw stone becomes a jewel without being cut, without losing what is excess to reveal what matters. The writer C.S. Lewis, decades ago, used an expression that still shakes those who hear it for the first time: severe mercy. Lewis understood in his own pain that the deepest love of God often does not look like comfort, it looks like surgery. A father who truly loves does not let his child play near the fire just to avoid a cry in the moment. He intervenes even if it hurts because he sees what the child cannot yet see on his own. And that is what I need to talk to you about now. The desert you crossed, the relationships that cooled, the doors that closed without warning, much of that was not abandonment. It was pruning. Pruning hurts because it cuts something that is alive, but it exists precisely so that the next season yields more fruit, not less. No one wastes time pruning a tree that is already dead. I will not insult you by pretending that every pain has a beautiful explanation behind it. There is pain that is simply pain, the result of a broken world, of wrong choices, yours or those of other people who crossed your path. But there is also a specific kind of pain, the one that persists, that has haunted you from an early age, that seems too big for your age or your story. And about that one, I need to ask you a question that can reorganize everything you think about your own suffering. What if it is not a sign of abandonment, but a sign that there is, in you, something that has not yet been fully understood nor fully activated? The letter to the Ephesians speaks about this in a direct way, without beating around the bush. Put on the full armor of God so that you can stand firm against the schemes of the devil. Notice that the text does not promise a life without any battle. It assumes that the battle exists, has always existed, and will continue to exist. The question should never be, why am I being tested? Because whoever carries more light usually attracts more opposition. The right question is, am I dressed for this war, or am I entering it unarmed the way I always have? But do not lower your guard yet, because the next territory I need to show you is the one that hurts most to admit. The reason why, many times, the first attacks of your life came too early, before you even understood what was at stake. I need to tell you something with all care, because I know it may hurt. If you feel that life has hit you harder than it has hit others around you, perhaps it is because on some level there was something in you that needed to be protected before it could be exposed to the world. I am not talking about privilege nor about being better than anyone else. I'm talking about responsibility. Whoever carries more weight usually goes through more storms. Not because they are punished for it, but because they have more to deliver on the other side of the crossing. Romans 12 brings an instruction that many people read too quickly and never actually apply to their own lives. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Renewing your mind is not forced positivity. It's not pretending everything is fine when it's not. You already know how to do that too well. Renewing your mind is intentionally deciding that you will no longer interpret your story through the lenses that fatigue, fear, or the voices of others have taught you to use. Try swapping the question, why did this happen to me, as for the question, what do I do now with what I learned from this? And there is a promise in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, that moves me every time I read it. I know your deeds. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. Notice the order of things in this verse. First come the deeds, the faithfulness kept in silence, the persistence no one applauded, the faith sustained even without visible answer. Only then comes the door. It is not the door that validates anyone's effort. It is the faithful effort that precedes the door. If you are in a season of waiting right now, that does not mean the door does not exist. It means it is still being prepared, and that no person, no circumstance, no decision made by anyone else has the power to shut what has already been decided to open. Putting on the spiritual armor in the practice of daily life is not an empty metaphor or an abstract sermon concept. It is a daily, repeated, often silent decision. It is choosing truth over the lie that exhaustion whispers in the early hours. It is choosing faith over the anxiety that projects the worst-case scenario before it even happens. It is protecting your mind from the voices, including your own inner voice, which is sometimes the cruelest of all, that insist on telling you that you are not enough, that you arrived too late, that your story has already been defined by what you lost along the way. That's why I prepared a powerful digital book for you called The Chosen Syndrome: How to Transform Your Isolation into Your Supreme Authority. I wrote this material precisely with this exact point in the journey in mind, when the pain begins to make sense, but there is still a lack of a practical path to turn all of that into steadiness in daily life. If what I've said so far has touched something real in you, the link is in the description and pinned at the top of the comments, in case you want to go deeper into this process with more depth than a video allows. Now come back with me, because the next part is about something almost no one has taught you to do properly: protecting what you are rebuilding. And here I need to tell you about a point that often bothers quite a few people: boundaries. Many people confuse love with infinite availability, as if saying no were some kind of sin. But there is a huge difference between serving with genuine love and nullifying yourself to please everyone around you all the time. You can love your family, your friends, your church deeply, and still need to protect your energy, your time, and your inner peace. That is not selfishness. That is taking good care of what God has entrusted to you, your own life. I am not telling you to pull away from those you love or to cut ties with your family because of a YouTube video. I am telling you to stop begging for approval from people who, historically, will never recognize you enough, no matter how much you bend to fit in. There are people who will only truly see you when you no longer need them to see you, and it is okay to keep loving those people from the right distance, without holding yourself accountable for results that were never yours alone to control. A healthy boundary is not a wall that isolates, it is a door with a lock. You still welcome those who do you good, and you consciously decide who enters, when they enter, and under what conditions they enter your life. Being called in the deepest sense of the word was never about being special at the expense of those around you. It was always about carrying enough light to illuminate the path of those still in the dark, without burning yourself out in the process. You don't have to shrink to fit into anyone's life, and you also don't have to isolate yourself from the whole world to preserve what God is building inside you. True balance lies in staying present, in your family, your community, your church, but with your spine straight, without asking permission to exist as you are. If your spirit recognizes this truth up to this point, I want you to write in the comments the number 777. Not as a magic formula, but as a personal declaration. I recognize the call, and I choose to put on the armor from today onward. But stay with me a little longer, because the most important part of this conversation is still missing. What to do with all this tomorrow morning, when the video has ended and real life comes knocking at your door again. Your spiritual authority isn't activated in a burst of emotion that fades in a few hours. It happens through the repetition of small choices that no one sees. It's the choice to pray even when you're tired. It's the choice to respond with serenity when someone tries to provoke you. It's the choice to give thanks even in the midst of scarcity, not because you pretend everything is fine, but because you've understood that gratitude is a form of spiritual warfare. It disarms the lie that you have nothing. You also need to understand that rejection is not a sentence. Many people your age still carry the mark of an old rejection: a father who didn't validate, a mother who compared, a relationship that humiliated, a group that excluded. And without realizing it, that person spends their whole life trying to prove their worth to people who aren't even around anymore. I need to free you from that race right now. You no longer have to prove anything to anyone who hurt you in the past. Your validation doesn't come from those who rejected you. It comes from the one who formed you. And if you feel like you're starting late, I need to remind you of one simple thing. The entire Bible is full of people who started late, who were rejected before they were used, who went through a wilderness before entering any promised land. No one is born ready to carry authority. Authority is formed precisely in the places where you almost gave up and decided to keep going anyway. That's also why the material, the Chosen One Syndrome, how to transform your isolation into your highest supreme authority, exists, to give you a structured, practical, no-nonsense path to move from the emotional theory of this video into a real spiritual routine that sustains you on days when no video is playing. The link remains in the description and at the top of the comments, in case you want to take this conversation further. I want to close this conversation with a truth that I sincerely hope you carry with you for the rest of the day. No pain you've gone through so far has been wasted. No night you cried alone went unrecorded. There is a purpose woven into every scar you carry, even if you can't fully read that stitching yet. You were not forgotten in the moments you felt most alone. You were being formed. From today onward, I invite you to look back, not with resentment but with a new understanding. The doors that closed protected you from paths that were never truly yours. The people who walked away made room for those who truly need to walk beside you now in this season. And the fatigue you carried in silence for so long can begin to transform into steadiness, because now you understand where it came from and where it can take you. If this message has reached you today, it was not a coincidence. Write in the comments, "My armor stands." Leave this comment as a landmark for yourself, a reminder that from now on you choose to walk differently, with more truth, with more boundaries, with more peace without diminishing yourself to fit anywhere. May this word find good soil in your life, and may you rise today a little firmer than you were yesterday.